Hi, welcome to HQ Live. I'm Vicki Hoth from Handi Quilter, and joining me today is Helen Godden from Australia.
G'day everyone, nice to be here.
She is our sweet ambassador.
So sweet.
Right, for our sweet, she knows everything there is to know. And Helen, what have you got for us today?
Well, today I'm going to share a block with you that's from my block of the month that I run each year, which this time it was called Feathered Friends. And you can see it's 9 blocks depicting Australian birds. Now with these blocks I actually paint them, so I want to demonstrate for you today how I paint a block and share that with you all, and then how I quilt over that painted surface.
Helen, this block of the month, is this something that has passed, or can anyone join at any time and do this?
It has actually passed, but anyone can join in and still have access to all the patterns, etc. of all those blocks.
Where can we find you, and how do we get to do this?
HelenGodden.com.
That was easy.
That was easy. Just my name with a .com.
Okay, all right. All right, so they're painted with special paints that you're going to tell us all about this.
Yeah.
So let's go through the process.
Well, first off, there's going to be a pattern for everyone to print out. It's a PDF that you'll download, and you can print that out at whatever size you want to make your block. I'm going to go with 14-inch block today, and then you'll have...
And is that the size that these
That's
were?
the size of those ones as well. And then we'll also have a couple more PDFs. One will be the colour chart, and one will be the quilting, my quilting suggestions, so that you can work from those designs.
You're actually going to give us the quilting little ideas?
Little diagrams. Yeah, I'll do all that for you. And then the paints I use are these beautiful product here. These are Lumiere by Jacquard, which is actually an American product, but I sell them on my website, HelenGodden.com. But the beauty of these is they are a metallic and a pearlescent finish. So these work onto the black fabric. You can see in my quilt, those colours are beautifully strong and have a pearlescent sheen to them. They actually look like I've painted with satin or silk.
Wait, here's one.
Yeah, that's pretty special.
What does that stand for?
That stands for Secret Weapon Jade. So it's a very special colour. You can see how beautiful that is. And when you use that in a block, it just looks sensational. So they're the colours we're going to be using today.
So is this something you put in probably every block you do?
Pretty well, yes.
Because it's kind of empty compared to the others.
It is one of my favourites.
Do you mix it?
No, it is an Australian product, but it's not available here in America. It is only available at home in Australia.
So all of these paints you can find on your website.
Absolutely.
And they can purchase them.
And lots of patterns and brushes and a few other tools, all to do with painting on fabric.
Because you need a brush.
You need your brushes. And these are a Tacklon. They're a synthetic brush, so they're really nice to use. And then otherwise we've just got our water, which you can source here in America, and some paper towel. That's all you really need to get started.
Okay, so let's move this aside because the next question that I have is, you're doing this on black. How do you mark it? What tool do you use?
Yeah, so I recommend using the black fabric because the paints really look spectacular on the blade, but that is a bit of an issue when it comes to tracing your design.
Okay.
So normally with a light fabric you can just put it on top and trace it, but for this we need to use a light box or your window to be able to trace it onto the black fabric.
And then some type of a white, what have you got here?
So I've got a special white marker here. It's a panda pencil. It actually, no pandas were injured in the making of this pencil, but this works beautifully on the black fabric. I'll just show you here. Okay, but the beauty is this will not brush off from over handling. It has to be ironed away, so it's perfect for your dark fabrics.
Okay, so you're saying don't use a chalk because that'll kind of brush away?
You can use a chalk, but if you over handle the fabric, you've lost your markings and all your work you've done.
Okay.
Yeah, so this irons away. I love it.
Okay.
Again, available you know where.
HelenGodden.com.
So we haven't got the tracing on film for you because using a light box and everything and the window is all a bit tricky. But you can see here I have traced that design from that paper pattern onto the black fabric.
And black fabric, cotton, tell me what type of fabric.
So for you here, I think the best one to use is one called Premium. I actually want one that's got a little bit of starch in it. Some of the ones like the Kona cotton, which we know are a good quality, they're actually a little bit lighter, a little bit see-through, and they're not as firm to work on. So in actual fact, a slightly lesser quality that has the starch in it is actually the one to go for.
If they can't find that, could they starch some Kona or a different fabric to make
No,
them?
I wouldn't suggest you starch it yourself, because quite possibly you'll put too much starch in it. So just buying one that has that little bit of starch is better, and don't pre-wash the fabric.
Okay.
I'm all about making things as easy as possible, so I don't pre-wash my fabric.
Okay.
But the other thing here that you might not have noticed is that we've got some cardboard on our surface here to keep it clean, but otherwise using the back of an old cutting mat, an old cutting board, is a great way to paint onto.
So if I got paint onto my surface here, it's water soluble, so it would come off.
It absolutely will come off with a little bit of like window cleaner, that kind of thing. It'll wash off fairly easily because it is an acrylic paint and it's water based, so it's quite easy and safe for the kiddies, as they say.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to move that pattern out for now.
She said pattern.
Sorry, pattern.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's
We
all
love
good.
hearing you talk.
It's all good.
It
I
is.
haven't got an accent. It's Vicki who's got the accent.
All right.
So I'm going to start here. This is a little blue wren. Now he's it is a he. It's an Australian bird, and in real life he's only about 2 inches with about a 2-inch tail. He's so small.
Really?
If I could possibly hold one, he would sit in my hand, and he's just gorgeous. And he's got these bright blue colours, and he darts around in amongst our shrubs in our gardens. Yeah, he's beautiful.
Okay. So as you start, ooh, that is really.
Yeah.
Whoa! Look at that
It's kind
blue.
of creamy and
It's
smooth. Yes.
Do you have to stir it or shake it, or does it?
Ideally you stir. I try to discourage shaking because you end up with a lid full of paint. So if you had to stir, you stir with the other end of your brush and then clean it off.
Okay.
But this is ready to go.
And when you start painting, do you start at an outside edge? Do you work from the center out, or do you have any? What's your thought process
Well,
there?
generally if I was at home, I would have this obviously facing me rather than the camera, and I would start from the top and work down just to avoid your whole, arm leaning in the wet paint. But just for today's demo, I'm going to start with the bird and a few other areas, and then just continue painting as we go.
Okay.
So, but these paints have got a really high metallic content to them, and that's why they work so well on the black. So it's only going to take one application, even of the white.
Oh,
It's only going to
really?
be one coat of paint.
You don't have to just keep going over it.
That's why I love these paints. I like to keep things as straightforward as possible. So now you use your little drip tray.
Your hand.
Yep, and you keep that brush upright. And I drag that brush along that line. Okay, because it's all about getting that edge nice and smooth, because it's going to look like applique in the long run. People will think it's actually going to look like stained glass applique, because we're going to leave the black gaps. Everywhere that I've got a thick chalk line or my Panda pencil line, I'm not going to paint on that. I'm going to leave a gap so that when we've ironed away that chalk or that Panda pencil, we've got black in between every shape.
Okay, so after everything's painted, then you iron it. Okay, so this would be best to use a thicker
Yes, in this case,
marking
yes.
so that you leave some black.
Yeah,
or the
a thick line is
space.
good. We also, later on, when we do get to the quilting, our first job will be to quilt in those black lines like our ditch stitching. And that's when you're going to really hope that you've got slightly wider lines. So that if you're not really confident with your painting, if you're leaving a wide gap, that's absolutely fine. You'll be happy later when it comes to the quilting.
Okay, I have a question. If someone is not a painter and they say, I love what you've got here, but I want to do applique with it.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people in my blocks of the month convert what I do to turned applique or raw edge applique. Some have even combined the paint and the fabric. They're doing their own interpretations with my designs, and I just love it. I love it.
But you're all about the paint.
I love the paint because it's so quick. For me, Vicki, I want to get to my Sweet 16 and start quilting. So if I paint this, and if I wasn't talking so much, I could get this done rather quickly and be able to get to the painting as soon as it's dry.
Okay, and so when we get to the painting or the quilting, how long is this going to take this to dry? Do we do one day and then quilt the next?
If we just go and have a cup of tea or
With some milk in it.
with some milk in
She
it.
has to have her
It's
milk.
taken them so long to get the milk in the tea. Anyway, if we have a cup of tea, It'll be dry, and then we just iron it, ready for sandwiching, and off we go. We can
Now,
then
when
quilt
you
it.
iron it, does that not melt that paint at all?
No, no.
Okay.
So what
I'm
you-
just thinking of everything.
Yeah, no, you're thinking ahead. You're asking good questions. But what I recommend is that we will iron it from the back first. Just
And will
in
that
case.
take the white away?
Yes, but then we can still iron it from the top. So this is fully washable and ironable. So if you were to use this to make a functional quilt, that would be good. You can use these paints to paint your t-shirts or paint your shoes or paint
Okay.
anything.
Once they're dry, they're permanent.
Once they're dry, they're not going anywhere.
Okay.
You can see I'm using my hand here as well. I
mhm.
sort of rest like that so that this is not getting in the paint. So you should have offered to paint the black bits, Vicki, because this bird actually has quite a few areas of black on him. So they're already painted. They're already done.
I was just going to say, I don't see any black, so
No.
my job's all
Your
done.
job's done. So there's black bits in there.
I got you the fabric. That was my
Yeah,
painting.
thank you very much. And sometimes people say, but what about if I make a little mistake? Well, that's when we can use the black fabric, the black paint to actually correct.
Fix it.
correct
Oh,
the
that's a
tiny
good
mistake.
thing, because you don't have any black here, because she doesn't make mistakes.
But then this is my best friend. I do not leave home.
That's how you fix it?
I do not leave home without a Sharpie. They are permanently in my handbag. Don't leave home without a Sharpie.
So you don't need black paint. You
As long
just
as you,
fix it with
yeah,
this.
but just little corrections. You wouldn't want to
Right.
do lots. Just a little bit if something's really bugging
So
you.
if you haven't made those edges, those lines that really clean, then now would you do that before or after you take the white lines away?
Yes, yes. After the
And then
white
you'd
lines have
sharpen
gone,
it
and then
up.
you're having a bit of a look. Yeah, but I tend to, with my students, I give them a 30-second Sharpie rule so that they don't overuse the Sharpie because it does spoil it a little bit. It's just for those few areas that you really wish.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I'm just looking here. I'm going to dive into the white.
Ooh, we got to have another color here. The white's going to
Yeah.
be so pretty.
The white really is good.
And do we need more clean
Well,
paint?
I did clean the brush in the water and wiped it on the paper towel. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't need more water on the brush. The water is just to clean the brush.
Oh, okay. So you don't ever thin this down?
You could, but not on this project today. Perhaps if you wanted to have a washy, pale, more watercolour look on a lighter fabric, you certainly could water these down and get a much softer look. But on the black, we want this strong drama.
Do you have to press this to make it permanent, or is it permanent once it dries?
If you leave it for, I think it's 48 hours, once it's absolutely dry, there is no washing it off. So, but we tend to iron it because we want to prepare that block for the next
Right.
stage anyway. So,
Okay, and get it ready with the
Yeah.
backing and the batting.
that's right.
And I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit here. What batting do you use?
I really don't mind. I usually use just a cotton batting for this because the technique of this one, if you're just making one block, that's fine. But when I put all 9 together, I have my students quilt each block with the batting underneath. And then when we're finished, we trim them back, add the sashings, and then we re-sandwich the whole thing as a whole quilt top.
So then it will have 2 layers.
2
of that.
layers underneath the blocks, but only 1 layer underneath the sashings.
Oh,
And
you're
that's how
quilting
we-
each block before you put the quilt together.
So that anyone can do this, whether they've got a Sweet 16, a long arm, or a domestic machine.
So any machine's going to work. You can use your Sweet 16.
Because it's only 14 inches, so that's easy on a domestic machine.
And you could do this on your long arm, on your
Yep,
domestic.
absolutely.
It's good for everybody. We can
Yep.
all do this.
Yep. And the painting's not that hard either. And I find with my students, they really find the painting very relaxing. It kind of takes you back to a what we call preschool, you call elementary school. You know, when we used to just play with paint and have fun and have no rules, etc. It's very relaxing technique. So in a class where I have 20 students all talking like crazy, we start painting, the room goes dead quiet. They're all just la-di-da, having a good time with their paint.
Okay, so I think we're going to fast pace this through. We're going to go ahead and finish painting this. And you won't be able to see all that. It'll be really fun for Helen to paint. She won't even let me have the brush here. And then we're going to come back. We're going to have it ready to start the quilting process.
Excellent.
So we'll be ready in just a minute. Fast pace.
Okay.
To start
Speed
quilting.
painting. Okay.
Helen, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Finished painting.
Yep.
Now, I see some things here. I noticed that you kind of went off the edge.
Yep. So even though we did have our line drawn there for the edge of the block, it's much better to paint beyond that so that we know it's going to get caught up in the binding or in the next sashing or whatever. It's always better to go beyond.
So you oversized that.
Oversized it, yep.
Okay, everything's finished. And I see that maybe there's a spot here that you maybe want to fix.
So this is the 30-second Sharpie rule. So just a few little places like that, you might want to just add that little bit of Sharpie in there,
Totally took
little
care of
bit,
it.
little bit there. Just, you know, tidy up a few things, but we don't want to overdo it. Just if you've lost, like that little bit there, if you've lost your black
Okay,
gap.
so, oh no, I guess there's
No,
something.
that's pretty good. But what you might notice is that it's not super neat. It's not all about being absolutely perfect because this is painted. So instead of trying to hide the brush strokes or hide the fact that it was painted, why not rejoice in that and let it be a little bit brushy because it is hand painted. We want that to have that look.
I love your
It's pretty special, isn't it?
Yes.
It's pretty special.
Okay, so I know you finished painting, it's dried, and then you actually have been doing some quilting on it.
Well, first off, we ironed it, we've sandwiched it, and we've pinned it. But with the pins, when you're putting the pins in, make sure you put them into the black areas because a pin will leave a big hole in a painted area because this fabric is now a little bit plasticky because of the paint, and any hole we make with the needle or a pin is going to stay there.
So you're not going to unpick anything.
There's no unpicking in this one.
I meant to do it.
There's no unpicking, which is okay. You just have to learn to live with something that's not perhaps how you really wanted it to look, but it's all practice and improvement, you know.
Okay, on your quilt back there, you did this with the top fabric and batting.
Yes.
But today, we're actually going to finish this with a backing
So
fabric.
this could be just a single small mini quilt for the wall.
Okay.
But otherwise, I don't put the backing on when I'm prepping 9 blocks to become a larger piece.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. Well, you know, I'm kind of ready to see you start quilting.
Okay.
Have you decided what you're going to quilt?
I have. I've got some areas worked out, but the first job is to do the ditch stitching. So this
So you still have a little bit more to do.
Yeah, so this is where you hope that your black gaps are fairly wide. So I'm going to start with ditching, so stitching with my black in those ditches that we've created where the paint isn't. Okay, and that'll then secure the whole piece, stabilise it so all those pins can come out, and then we're free to do all the free motion work. So hopefully that stitching in the black with the black thread really gets us warmed up.
Okay,
and into it.
And if you're not comfortable with doing the straight lines, use a ruler.
You can, but these aren't painted necessarily super straight, so I think just go
So
with
you're
the
good?
flow.
Okay.
Yeah. And I always stitch beyond.
That's your
And
travel
then, yeah,
path.
and then just come back in again.
Okay.
And it doesn't matter if I go through an area twice or anything like that. You know, you can stitch back through that same little track a couple of times just to get to the
That's
next
right,
area.
but because it does not
You can't see it.
show at all.
You can't
Okay.
see it. So I'm going to start in here with my little blue wren and give him some feathers on his head, some sort of decorative lines that go with the shape of his head. You want all your stitching to be emphasising the shape of the bird, so it's not just flat.
Okay, question.
Yep.
Would you do all of the bird, the leaves, all of that before you ever do your outside fill?
It shouldn't really matter because this should be all stabilised now.
So it doesn't
really.
matter.
No,
Whatever.
it really
If you
doesn't
have
matter. No, this is
an
now all
idea
stable.
And you're there,
Yeah,
just do it.
That's right.
Okay.
But I am going to be stitching the whole time in the black thread because if I change to blue thread right now, the blue would disappear into the blue and we get left with a series of holes because those
Okay.
holes where the needle goes, they're not going to close up
That's
ever.
a good thought.
So you
Everything's
need to...
going to be in black.
Yes, because then it shows off my stitching. It eliminates the look of the black holes. Also, the stitching, another thing to note is that it's going to make the stitch look a bit straight. The stitch isn't going to sort of sink or bed down into the fabric as
because
much
of the paint.
because of the paint again.
And the weight of thread that you're using is about a 40 weight
I think
thread?
it's a 40, yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Because
kind of,
I want that stitching to show off.
you
I
don't want it real fine.
No, not real fine.
Okay, all right, good to know. Black bobbin thread as well, right?
Yep.
Oh, you are making that curved.
Yeah, so that it goes with the shape of the bird. So, oops. Shall we stop? So what you can notice too, it does make a slightly different sound when I'm stitching over the paint. It makes this little pucka 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 noise.
I can definitely hear that different sound that it makes.
Yep, I quite like it. I quite like that sound. So I'm just working my way around, adding some detail to his feathers on his chest. Now I could go back in and add some black in black, just textured stitching.
Right, but it won't really show.
No, it just gives texture. But on here I'm going to do some feather shapes. It really starts to come to life now.
Yes, it is. How easy is that?
But if you notice, I keep stitching, taking that stitch pattern right into the black. So using that ditch for the black line to work its way and then move back onto the area again. So here I'm going to come down to the point and then work back this way.
Oh, because that's his little tail there.
Yeah, little end of the wing.
That's right. The end of the wing, not the tail. That's the tail.
So then for this part, I'm going to use my panda pencil just to help me find that line.
Okay.
Okay, and that'll iron away. But I'm going to do a bird kind of pattern. I'm going to do flying geese up here. Even though it's a blue wren, we're going to do a flying geese pattern in our quilting.
Okay.
Okay, so I start by making those lines.
That's really good to have that line there.
It just helps. It just helps that little bit.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use my marker again and just give myself some horizontal marks there, just as a reminder. I'm going to come down the end and start from the bottom. It just makes more sense to me.
Okay.
To come down here, and then I'm going to make my flying geese. So I'm using that marker to know where to stitch across.
And using your previous thread path as the path.
Yep, that's right. And that's okay to go over it a second time. That's quite okay. Let's see if I can be clever and go back the other way. So I can't piece these patterns, Vicki, but I can quilt them.
My goodness, and they're beautiful.
I think it looks nice on his little tail there. I'll come back and finish those ones later because I want to show you in here a design that I call contour stippling.
Okay.
And what's going to happen here is that half the design is on this side and the other half has to look like it's coming out from behind his tail, so that the two halves of this circle sort of link up behind him. Okay. So I'm going to start with an exaggerated stipple shape. And now when I go back and go parallel, I'm going to exaggerate on the curves.
Okay.
So it'll go not parallel, it'll go exaggerated at each of the curve areas. Yeah.
You're going to echo that.
Echo, but exaggerate. Echo, but exaggerate.
Okay.
It's actually going to look a little bit like the moon, like a moon shape.
Right. And then use your travel path because you
Yeah,
can.
keep using that to come back in. And use that edge there to come back in. And even that little bit there will just make it look like it goes behind.
I love that you've got that black there to travel and save so much time, not having to cut your
That's
thread.
right, I try to not cut my thread. So now I'm looking here and I want that to try and look like it continues. So I'm going to pick up on that flow over here. So that's where I use my magic finger. Sometimes magic finger can just make you imagine where it's going. So.
We actually have 2 layers of a 80-20 batting, so it's given it kind of some dimension to this quilt.
It's going to have some great loft, and you can already see that with that beautiful paint, you start to get the shadow and the highlight, and it really shows off that stitching. That's what I love about it. It looks like a piece of silk or satin on there.
That's
looks
beautiful.
Great.
Okay, Helen, I see this bar or whatever is going across here.
Yep.
So let's turn your work.
I need to turn it because
what are you going to do across there?
I'd like to include my spirit dancers because that's sort of the spirit of Australian people, So I like to include that there, and that I do like to stitch that facing me. So it's okay to rotate the job when I'm not quilting.
Okay.
Okay? So I'm going to come over to here and start that little line of spirit dancers.
And you've got the open toe foot on, so it makes it easier to see your work,
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah, that 1/4 inch space in there makes a big difference. So here's my little spirit dancers.
His little legs.
Little legs. He's got a very long arm, that one.
And a little head. Oh my gosh, look how easy that is. Oh, look how fun that is.
Okay, so we might come across to this side, so I'll just travel. Travel's as good as a holiday, Miss Vicki.
It is a holiday, right?
Travel
so you
around
could have gone across the top.
I could have.
But it's okay.
That's okay. So I might put some an Aussie touch in here. You watch this.
Okay. I think we're getting a little kangaroo here. Is that Skippy?
That's Skippy, all right. He often likes to make an appearance. He doesn't like to be left out. And that's a really good example of...
Oh my word, you are so good at that.
Well, I have practiced it before, but it's a good example of how to make something continuous. Yes. So you practice that on paper and work out the design, whether it be kangaroos or, I don't know, what else could it be?
So, koala. So the nice thing about this is that you have 2 paths going. You do the top part rather than try and figure out how to do this whole kangaroo and then move on.
I want to make it continuous.
Yes.
So the same here with my spirit dancers. They're just like a stick man, where you draw a stick man and take your pen off the page like 5 times. Well, I just ask myself, how can I make a stick man but make it continuous, like I'm doing cursive writing? So I work it out on paper until I've got my little pattern, and then it goes in here.
And they don't have to be Australian men. If they were someplace else,
They're anything you like. So, but I'm going to have a little play now. I think in this area, I want to show you something called abstract spirals.
Okay. So we've finished with the bird, other than you will go back and finish
I will,
that.
yes, I will do that.
I want to turn this around. And you are, because I asked about this, you're going to leave this little breast unquilted and his little feet.
I might add something to the feet, but by the time I stitch in here and in that little bit there and here, in all the orangey bits, this will then stand out and be quite sculptural, raised, while the rest of it is sunk down. So
okay, all right. So you're going to go now into this, and you're calling this what?
Abstract spirals.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So for all spirals, they start with a number 6, the shape and the way that we make a 6. But in this one, the 6 is going to be made up of sort of angled, straight lines, but still a 6.
Okay.
So I'll do it this way.
starting on your next spiral.
Yeah, work your way in. Come on out again. The secret here is to keep travelling around the outside of that one until you find a space for your next shape.
Right.
And what you don't want to do is make them a perfect looking square. You can see they're a wonky square. A wonky square, so many of them will be able to fit together much more easily than trying to be perfect squares. The wonky shape is more forgiving to be able to work our way into all these little funny areas that we have to get into, because we have to try and make this area look like it's the background behind the bird and the leaves. So my consistency is that I'm trying to keep the spacing about, I don't know, what's that, 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, just something that's consistent, and then I still use that black gap to scoot around to get somewhere, So you're constantly using that space. Now what I've got here is not a very big area, so rather than trying to squeeze a whole one of these in here, I'm going to say to myself, let there be half, or you might say, let there be half. Half, only half of one, okay, so that it does look like it's behind the bird. So I much prefer to have half of one than to squeeze in an ugly one, because that's what your eye will go to, if there's an ugly one. So let there be half, in the same way as you might buy some cat fabric and you need to make a border, and sometimes you just have to cut that cat's face in half, but the cat's okay, but yeah, let there be half, and that design will then look like it's behind the bird.
Okay.
And again here, there's not much space, so I'm just going to kind of echo.
Let there be half again.
Let there be just a part of one.
Okay. And then travel down.
And so the end result is that it looks like this was a piece of fabric with this pattern on it that I just happened to use in this area. So there's,
and the thing I notice is you're very consistent with your spacing.
Trying to keep that width be consistent.
So if there was too much, you added some in there to make that happen.
That's right. And it's amazing the difference that little bit makes in making it look finished. Just that little bit.
And this can be done on a domestic machine.
Oh, absolutely.
This can be done on your long arm.
Absolutely. This is only 14 inch, so it's quite doable.
Right.
Another half one there.
That's a fun background.
Yeah, I like this one. It's very forgiving.
Traveling, kind of an echo around that. There we are.
And there's
we're
another half.
underneath the leaf
Another
again.
half.
Okay.
Oops, so I might even do just a few little bits there. So those little areas, way too hard to do anything. Just fill them with lines that look like they were part of the plan, okay? But as I come out here, I've got room to maybe do something. So I just keep using that black. But while I'm here near the leaf, I might show you how I do the leaves on this one. Okay. There's actually quite a few options, so I might show you a few options for the leaves.
I've noticed that as you get going on that, your speed is increasing. You're moving that faster. You're feeling more confident. And
that's right. But I'm also looking at that stitch. You've got to always be watching it. And if I think that stitch looks a bit long, the answer is speed up my foot pedal, not speed up my hands.
Okay.
Okay, you have to be watching that stitch. So don't change the hands. If the hands are confident this is the speed they want to go, make the stitch look nicer by speeding up the machine.
Okay, good tip.
So while I'm in that leaf, I'm going to go down the centre. Add just some little veins. Just a couple here and there. And I'll do a third one to get back to the edge.
Oh!
Okay? Sometimes people might think, oh, that was very clever to do 2 and then 3. It's literally...
There was a reason
I just wanted to get back to the edge.
Okay, that's
You sometimes
great.
need odds and evens. An even will get you back to where you were, and odd will take you to the other side.
I like the way you did that.
Yeah. So another way of doing a leaf. Up in here, we could just do some zigzag.
Okay.
And then you can come back into that zigzag. Again, using that ditch. Don't stitch the pin. There we go. Another one is my stack of rocks idea, which is based on the stippling pattern. You You make a stipple. And then you close it off. Okay, so there's 3 different styles of leaves just there.
Love
so
it.
you could continue to do different styles there.
Every one of them,
Yep.
yes.
Yep.
Okay, so you'll do
Back
that
into
later?
there, or do you want me to do that now, or
Well, yeah, I kind of like that
you
finished.
want to see it finished? Okay, Miss Vicki. So from here, I'm feeling a little bit stuck to get to that. So I am just literally going to travel all the way around there.
Oh, okay.
I would still rather travel than cut my thread.
And then you'll just travel back to get to your other leaf, or to the
Down here, yeah. So down in here, continuing with this pattern.
Okay. One under the leaf.
Yeah. So now that I've done the tricky bits, I've now got a lovely open area
You do.
to play in. And I will always stitch past that border because I'd rather the stitching continue underneath the binding or the sashing
Right.
rather than there being that really obvious stopping point. So I always stitch, I call this no man's land. I call
Okay.
it out here in the never never. So yeah, I'll stitch out there.
Out back, huh?
Yep, the outback. So you can see also I tend to pause my hands at every sort of corner, because by pausing the needle goes up and down just those few times and will give me that exact change of direction. If I didn't pause my hands, it'd be more like stippling, where we just keep going when we get a curved corner rather than an actual
Right,
corner.
so
So you
that
just
gives you a good
pause your
shot.
hands. It's only a split second, enough for the needle to go up and down a few times.
It's a good tip. You can tell she's done this before. It's really,
I love this pattern. It's one of my go-to favourites. It's always fun to see how it's going to fit together, how it's going to come out. The other fun thing I like to do with this design, I'll just finish this bit and I'll show you in a little sec. Because it is a continuous pattern, I could actually get my brush now and actually paint back into that design every second area, and it will always work because there's going to be a positive and a negative. So you just make sure you
Right.
paint every second area and just follow it around. And what that does for me is, rather than the stitching just being a thin thread that I'm trying to get impact and trying to, show off my quilting
Yeah.
techniques, by painting into that, I've now given us a 1/4 of an inch of showing off that pattern. So it gives it even more emphasis.
really
Yeah,
does.
so I do that quite a bit, is actually paint back in there. And what I might do is take the lighter colour here and paint it back into the dark, and
Okay.
the darker colour and paint it up there. So you get a
Oh.
blend of colour here and then this other blend on top. So it's like a two-way blended fabric, which would be almost impossible to do in fabric, but we can do it in
Right.
paint.
Yes.
We can do whatever we like in paint.
And would you do the same design
Yes.
in here?
Yes, because
You'd
I see
follow it
that
through?
as one piece of fabric
Okay.
continuing
That's
underneath.
what I
yes,
was
yeah.
feeling.
So I would
Okay.
do that up there, but Shall we move on to the middle section now?
Yeah, but there's just one little part. You just have to go fill that in.
Good point. Okay, Miss Vicki, let's go there. It's obviously worrying her.
It was worrying me.
Well, I'll tell you what's worrying me is I'm just not sure that I've done enough. Well, I think I have. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you just got to watch, yeah.
But I know down there you need it.
Yeah, I need to stitch this bit.
Okay, all right, so now, what have you, do you need to turn your fabric? Because you can turn it.
I might turn it, but while I'm in the black here, I will just stitch
like a wood grain?
Sort of horizontal lines to go with the twig, but it's just going to be texture, literally texture. So just this kind of backwards and forwards kind of thing, just to give it some texture. But on his little legs, I do like to do little curved, just little curved triangles. So I could travel along this path, you know, to get to my leaves. But I think I'm going to come back up in here and show you the background.
Because we will get this finished today. Maybe not in front of the camera, but you will finish it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you will be able to see it finished.
Absolutely. This won't take very long to finish now. So for the background, there's a few options. You could just go with your favourite stipple or whatever favourite pattern you have. But I think I want to try and get a bit of a sunburst idea because this looks like, you know, sunset or sunrise.
Okay.
So this is when I grab my panda pencil again and I'm going to imagine the middle of my circle here.
Right there.
And then draw just some guidelines radiating out, a bit like a clock or something.
Okay.
Now, I'm not expecting to stitch on these lines, but is to remind me where I was aiming for, because when I come down here in amongst the other elements, you can get a bit lost trying to remember. Thank you. That's my assistant there. Look at that. You're going to come home with me and excellent. Okay.
Yep.
So this is where I say to people to use whatever marker you like as a guideline or directional lines, not trying to draw the whole thing on there. But see, I would be quite lost down here as to what angle.
Right,
and see, it doesn't matter if
that.
I draw over the top of my other elements, it's all going to come away. So then up here, we're just going to make sure we've got some...
And if you can't get the feel of it, put a ruler there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, put a mark there and put your ruler there and just have those guidelines.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go for straight lines. And so obviously to radiate, they're going to be, let's say, closer together here, and they will have to, you know, pan out as they go out. But those lines are going to make it quite easy for me to maintain that direction, even though I'm having to work underneath elements, okay?
Yes, because I'm not sure I quite understand where, what you're going to put in. Are you putting something in between those lines?
Not necessarily. I've just lost my foot pedal again. It always goes on a holiday. There we go. So at this point here, right in the middle, it's going to be going straight out.
Okay.
So straight out to the edge and come back in just that little bit narrower, okay? Just a little bit narrower.
Yes.
So I'm not stitching on those lines, I'm just using them as a reminder. But I have to keep going around that leaf.
Yes.
I might even just try and sneak some in there.
What an easy background.
But it's going to look pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
But I really could not do it without that pre-marking. I would be lost. It would be very hard to do. So, you know, you might think I could stitch straight across that branch, but I don't want to have the obvious stitching across there when the branch is meant to be going, you know, that way.
I love the way your brain works. So you did a little bit of the...
Yep, horizontal, yep. So you could absolutely use your ruler if you want to. You know, if you're on a long arm machine or on the Sweet 16, you could be using a ruler, but I'm quite okay with them not being perfect lines. The overall effect is what I'm looking for. The colour and the detail that the quilting can give me. Because what I love is from a distance you'll just see the bird, but you come up close and there's a lot of extra detail in the quilting. Oops, that was a bit close, but no one's going to notice it.
When it's all done.
That's right.
Yes. Those lines are so important. Because I could see where you could really
lose your way. So here I'm just going to go horizontal. And then come back in here. Trying to pick up on that direction again. You can really hear the needle making that little sound, can't you? I don't think I had done that leaf. There we go.
Did that leaf either. Did it get quilted? Okay. Wow. Let's move that over, and so that we can see. I know you have the top. So basically, you have your leaves left in this. So we'll get that finished, and so we can see the finished view. But Helen,
there's one more little thing.
Yes.
And I just do the eyeball because he's blind.
He is.
He's a blind.
Oh, so we're going to put a little more paint on him?
Just a little bit. So you will do this after you've finished all your quilting.
Okay.
But he needs an eye. So the easiest way for the eye is to get your brush and use the blunt end, okay? And just that teeny little dot of white. And come in here and bing.
There he is.
There he is.
Oh, he's not blind anymore.
Not blind. He can see.
That is great. Well, Helen, oh my gosh, this is so fun. And you have 9 of these in your class.
That's right.
9 different
Australian birds, each in that 14-inch block, and it's a block of the month, but you can join any time, and there's all the video content, just like this. We paint and we quilt, and you get to do this whole design with me.
And it's a video?
Video of quilting and painting, online.
That is so valuable. How do we find you?
So that's helengodden.com for my feathered friends block of the month.
Okay.
You going to join me, Vicki?
I am. And for this design,
Yep.
you'll be able to get a PDF of this design and the information on how to do it underneath the YouTube video that you'll find. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Handi Quilter YouTube channel, so that you can watch this video and you can see the finished result. Helen, this has been so delightful. I'm just in here like, oh.
She almost took that paintbrush out of my hand.
I know, it's so exciting.
It is fun.
Thank you so much for coming.
You're
This is
most
a long
welcome.
trip.
Yes, it
it's
is.
a long trip. And I know, your arms are tired
swim
from
the whole
flying.
way.
Oh, I
No,
thought
I swim. No, I swim.
You swam? I thought you flew. Okay, well, you were first.
Oh, dear.
Thank you so much
You're most
for coming
welcome.
and,
You're most
and
welcome.
entertaining us today and teaching us. There were so many things I learned on using my machine, and I hope that you as viewers learned those things too.
Excellent.
So join us again on another HQ Live with another awesome idea.
Excellent.
See you there.
Bye. I'm going to finish
Let's
this.
quilt.
Yeah, I want to
let's
finish
quilt.
it. I've got to catch that plane and I want to finish it. Just got to make sure I do.